This story is about a poor lady named Hannah and a super rich guy named Dominic. One of them was hungry and cold, and the other had all the things money could buy. But one rainy morning in a city called Lagos, their lives connected in a way no one saw coming. And what happened next will probably make you cry. It was a chilly morning, and the rain was dripping down. Cars were zooming by on the busy road in Lagos. Hannah was standing at a corner, hugging her baby Julia, close to her body. The baby was wrapped in just a thin piece of fabric, and she was crying quietly. Her little body felt cold, and her face was all wet. Hannah didn't have an umbrella, a coat, food, or a place to live. Her flip-flops were broken, and her dress was all wet. But she stayed right where she was. She just couldn't leave. The night before, she and her baby didn't have any food to eat, not even a single bite of food. So this morning, even with the rain falling, she was going to stand by the road until she got help. It wasn't that she needed food for herself that much. It was because her baby was hungry, and she couldn't stand to see her baby feel bad again. People walked by. Some of them felt sorry for her, and some just looked away. Two men standing close to her started talking in low voices. "Why is she just standing in the rain like that?" "Maybe that's how she makes money," the other man said. "A lot of people fake it to get money for free. Some people even borrow a baby just so you'll feel bad for them." Hannah heard what they said, but she didn't say anything back. She just wiped Julia's face and rocked her softly. Hannah held her hand out. Her voice was quiet and tired, but you could hear the hurt in it. "Please help me, just a little bit of food for my baby. She hasn't eaten anything, please." She looked down at Julia's face. The baby's lips looked really dry, and her crying was getting weaker. Hannah held her even tighter. "Don't worry, my sweet. Baby, mommy is going to get food today. Even if I have to stand here all day long, someone will help." But Hannah had no idea that help was a lot closer than she realized. Inside a big black Jeep, a man was sitting in the back. His name was Dominic, and he was super rich. He was so rich that people would stare when he walked into a room. Today, he was heading to his office really early. He had a huge meeting with some people from another country who wanted to do business with his company. This meeting was a very big deal. It could make his company even bigger and get him more business. From all over the country, the road was packed with cars, and they were all moving very slowly. It was the normal Lagos traffic jam. Dominic was leaning back in his seat and staring out the window, and then he saw something that made him look closer. He sat up straight. A young woman was standing on the side of the road. She was holding a baby. The rain was still coming down, not super hard, but enough to get you all wet. The baby was already wet from the rain. The woman looked so tired, like she had no energy left at all. Dominic couldn't take his eyes off her. He saw the way she was holding her baby so tight, like the baby was all she had in the whole world. She wasn't moving around or yelling for help. She was just standing there, quietly asking for someone to help her. Dominic felt something strange deep down. He knew this wasn't just some regular person begging, a person begging with a tiny baby in the pouring rain. This was real hurt, true pain. He looked at her one more time, and then he made up his mind. "Stop the car," Dominic said. The driver looked at him in the mirror. "Sir, just stop." The driver pulled the car to the side of the road and stopped. Dominic opened his door. He stepped right out into the rain. His nice shoes got all wet on the road. His suit started to get soaked, but he didn't seem to mind. He walked slowly over to the woman. Hannah didn't even see him coming. She was just focused on rocking her baby, Julia. The baby was still crying, but it was a soft and tired cry now. Dominic stood right in front of her. Hannah looked up, and she was surprised to see a tall man standing that close. She looked at his face. He looked very serious, but also kind. "Good morning," Dominic said in a soft voice. Hannah didn't say anything, she just nodded her head. He looked at the baby. "What's her name?" "Julia," Hannah answered in a quiet voice. Dominic got a little closer and looked at Julia's face. She was shivering, and her little lips were shaking as she cried softly. "Has she eaten anything?" he asked. Hannah just shook her head. "No, sir, not since yesterday." Dominic looked at her wet clothes. Her hands must have been freezing from being so cold. "And what about you? Have you eaten?" Hannah looked down at the ground. "No, sir, but that's okay. I just want to get some food for my baby." Dominic was quiet for a second. He looked at the mom and her baby. Then he said, "Come with me." Hannah looked up, all confused. Sir? Come on, let me help you. Hannah didn't move, she just looked at Dominic. She was scared. She had never talked to a rich man like him before. She didn't know what was happening. But when she looked into his eyes, they seemed calm and kind. She looked down at Julia again. The baby was still shaking, and her tiny fingers were cold. Hannah took a big breath. Then she slowly nodded her head. She followed Dominic to the big black car. The driver opened the door for her. Hannah got in, holding Julia close to her body. She sat on the very edge of the seat, like she was scared to touch anything. The driver looked at her in the car mirror. He didn't say anything, but you could tell he was wondering what was going on. Hannah didn't look at him. She just looked at her baby and kept rocking her softly. Next to her, Dominic sat without talking. He looked straight ahead as the car started to move, but his mind was filled with questions. Who was this lady? What happened to her? And how did she end up in a situation like this? Inside the car, Dominic grabbed a small towel from the seat. He gave it to Hannah. Here, he said, use this to dry the baby. Hannah took the towel right away. Thank you, sir, she said. Her hands were shaking as she wrapped Julia in it. Dominic looked at her. Her dress was still soaking wet, and her hair was dripping water, but she wasn't complaining at all. She was just thinking about her baby. What's your name? He asked her. Hannah, she answered quietly. Okay, Hannah. Where do you live? Hannah looked down. She didn't say anything at first. Then, in a very quiet voice, she said, We sleep on the street, sir. Dominic nodded his head slowly. He didn't look surprised. He just took a breath and said, Okay, I'll take you to a safe place. Hannah looked up, and her eyes were wide open. Really, sir? Dominic nodded. Yes, somewhere that is dry and warm. You and Julia need to rest and eat. Tears started to fill up in Hannah's eyes, but she wiped them away fast. Thank you, sir. God bless you. Dominic didn't say anything else. He just looked out the window, thinking hard. But Hannah didn't know that this was only the start of everything. Dominic looked at his watch one more time. He knew he was almost late for his big meeting. The people from the other country were probably at his office waiting for him. It was a really important meeting, one that could make his company get a lot bigger. But he looked over at Hannah. He looked at her baby, Julia. They were both so tired, cold, and hungry. He shook his head. No, he said to himself. They need food first. He told his driver to stop the car at a little restaurant. They walked inside. Dominic didn't care if anyone was looking at them. He ordered hot rice, fried plantains, chicken, and warm milk for the baby. He also asked them to bring some water. Hannah sat on the very edge of her chair, still holding Julia. Her tummy was hurting. She hadn't eaten anything. In 2 days, when the food arrived, she looked at Dominic. Can I eat here, sir? She asked in a quiet voice. Dominic nodded. Yes, eat. Hannah bowed her head. She put Julia on her lap and gave her the warm milk. Then, she began to eat. She ate really slowly at first, like she was scared the food might just disappear. Tears started to roll down her face as she chewed her food. Dominic just watched her without saying a word. He just waited. When she was done, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand. Then she looked up at Dominic. Her voice was quiet. Thank you, sir. God bless you, sir. Dominic leaned closer. Tell me what happened to you. How did you get into this situation? Hannah looked down at her baby. Then she started to tell her story. Sir, I don't have anybody in the whole world. My mom and dad died when I was just a little girl. I grew up in a home for orphans in a town called Ibadan. Life was really hard. Very, very hard. When I got older, I figured out how to get by. I worked for people in their houses. I cleaned. I washed clothes. I cooked. I did anything I could find to make a living. She looked at Julia's face and gave her a kiss on the forehead. Then one day I met a man named Jacob. He was a taxi driver in Lagos, but he was from a country nearby. He was a very kind man, and we got very close. We fell in love with each other. After a year, he said that we were going to get married. She stopped talking for a second. Dominic was still listening. The restaurant was very quiet. A few months after that, I found out I was pregnant. I was pretty scared at first, but when I told Jacob, he was so happy. He said he was all ready to marry me, but he had to go back to his home country to tell his family. He said it was a rule in their family that he had to tell them first. Before he brought home the woman he was going to marry, her voice started to crack. That was the very last time I ever saw him. Dominic blinked. He sat up a little straighter. What do you mean? Hannah nodded her head slowly. He promised he would come back in just 1 week, but he never did. His phone number stopped working. I waited for him. I cried. I begged his friends, but nobody knew anything. Or maybe they were just keeping the truth from me. I really don't know. I ran out of money. I lost the house I was living in. No one would give me a job because I was pregnant. So I had to start sleeping on the streets. I begged people for food. She wiped the tears from her eyes. Now Julia is the only person I have. Dominic's heart felt very heavy. He looked at the little girl who was now sleeping without a worry. Then he looked at Hannah. She was still so young, and she still had hope in her eyes. But life had been really mean to her. Dominic took a big, deep breath. He made a silent promise to himself in his heart. This is not how her story is going to end. Dominic put his hand in his pocket. He took out some money. Then he put it down on the table right in front of Hannah. "Take this," he said. "It will help you and your baby for a little while." Hannah looked at all the money. Her hands started to shake. "Sir, this is way too much," she said quietly. "I can't take all of this." Dominic looked right into her eyes. "Take it," he said again in a soft voice. "You need it." Hannah looked down at Julia, who was still asleep in her arms. She picked up the money and held it close to her body. Then she bowed her head. "Thank you, sir. May God bless you." Dominic nodded his head. He smiled just a tiny bit. Then he looked down at his watch. His eyes got really wide. The time for his meeting had already passed. The people from the other country were probably already at his office. He stood up from his chair very fast. "I have a really important meeting this morning," he said. "It's going to take about 3 hours." He took a card out of his wallet. It was his business card. It had his name and phone number on it. He gave the card to her. "Call me in 3 hours," he said. "I will come to wherever you are and pick you and your baby up and take you to a safe place." Hannah held the card so carefully, like it was made of gold. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't get the words out. She didn't have a phone, not even a little one. She looked at Dominic's face. She wanted to tell him, but her mouth wouldn't move. "Thank you, sir," is what she said instead. She thought really fast. "Now that I have a little money, maybe I can pay someone to let me use their phone to call him when it's time." Dominic gave her one more look. "I'll be waiting for you to call," he said. Then he turned around and walked out of the restaurant. Hannah just sat there, holding Julia with one arm and the business card with the other. For the first time in a very long time, she felt like things might get better. After sitting in the restaurant for a little bit, Hannah got up. She took the business card that Dominic gave her and folded it up very carefully. She really didn't want to lose it, so she slid it into a little pocket that was sewn on the inside of Julia's tiny clothes. The baby was still sleeping. She felt the pocket to make sure the card was still there. Then she held Julia close to her chest and walked out of the restaurant. Her baby's little blanket moved a bit. She tried to fix it so Julia wouldn't wake up. She didn't know that the card had fallen out. It fell onto the wet ground right by the restaurant's door. No one saw it happen. By this time, the rain was gone, and the sun was starting to come out. Hannah walked slowly. Then she got on a public bus. She went back to the same spot where Dominic had found her. She saw a small store near the corner where she was begging earlier that morning. The person who owned the shop wasn't there, but the little roof over it was still dry. She sat down on the side of a small wooden bench. She had no idea that the card was missing. She was thinking, "I'll just wait here until it's time to make the call. Then I'll find someone to help me." But now she didn't have a card, a number, or anything. At exactly 12 o'clock, Dominic stood up from his chair in the meeting room. The people from the other country had just left. Everything in the meeting went really well. He should have been happy and smiling, but his mind was on something else. He frowned a little bit. He took his phone out of his pocket and looked at it. No missed calls. He looked at the time again. 5 hours had gone by. He sat back down and just stared at the floor. Why didn't she call me? He asked himself. Did she just forget? He rubbed his fingers together. Maybe she wasn't ever going to call. Maybe she is just one of those people who begs to make money. His face looked more serious, but she didn't seem like that. She seemed so scared, so broken. He remembered the way she was crying when she was eating. He remembered how she held her baby so close, like the whole world was trying to hurt her. He let out a long sigh. I told her I would take her somewhere safe. Just for her baby, why wouldn't she want that? He looked at his phone again. Still no call. After some time, he put his phone down on his desk and went back to his work. But deep down in his heart, he did not feel at peace. And outside, in a different part of the city, Hannah was sitting quietly under the shade. She was still waiting, still holding Julia, with no idea that the card was lost. It was time for lunch. Dominic got into his black car and sat there without talking for a minute. He looked out the window, thinking really hard. Then he turned to his driver and said, "Take me to that little restaurant we went to this morning. The one where I brought the lady and her baby." The driver nodded his head and started the car. As the car was driving through the streets of Lagos, Dominic kept looking out the window. He was hoping, just hoping, that maybe she was still somewhere, close. He couldn't get her out of his mind. Something just didn't feel right. What if she tried to call him but she couldn't? What if something bad happened to her? The questions just kept popping up in his head. They got to the restaurant. Dominic got out of the car very quickly. He looked all around. His eyes went from one corner to the next. Nothing. No sign of Hannah. No sign of the baby. He walked slowly toward the front door of the restaurant. His steps were quiet. Just as he got to the door, he saw something on the wet ground. He bent down. There it was. The business card he had given to Hannah. It was wet, and the sides were all soft from the rain. The words on it were still easy to read. He picked it up and just stared at it. His heart dropped. "Did she throw this away?" he whispered. "Or did it fall without her even knowing?" He looked around one more time. Still nothing. He held the card tightly in his hand. Then he walked into the restaurant and sat at the very same table they had used before. A waitress came over to him. "Good afternoon, sir. What can I get for you?" He looked at her without a smile. "Just give me some rice and chicken," he said quietly. As the waitress walked away, Dominic leaned back in his chair. He put the wet card on the table. He just kept staring at it. In his head, it felt like two voices were talking. One voice said, "She's gone. She was never going to call you." The other voice said, "She lost the card, and maybe she is still out there waiting for you." He didn't know which voice was right. But one thing was for sure, he couldn't stop thinking about what that woman's little baby might be going through. Far away in another part of the city, Hannah was still sitting quietly under the shade. Little Julia was still sleeping in her arms. Hannah looked tired, and her eyes were red. At this point, she thought it was probably time to call Mr. Dominic. So, she slowly opened the little pocket on Julia's clothes to look at the business card one more time. Her hand froze. Her heart skipped a beat. It was gone. She looked again, shaking the little clothes, checking the cloth she was wearing. Nothing. She stood up and looked all around the ground. Still nothing. Tears filled up her eyes. "Oh no, no, no," she cried softly. She sat back down, holding Julia close. "This can't be happening," she whispered. "God finally sent someone to help me. Someone so kind, and now I've lost his card." She wiped her face with her wrap, but the tears just kept coming. "Dominic, he said he would come and get us. He said we would be safe." She remembered his voice and his kind eyes. The money he gave her, the food, and now she had no way to call him. She held Julia even tighter. "I'm so sorry, baby. Mommy lost it. I lost the only chance we had." Her heart felt so heavy and her lips were shaking. Then all of a sudden she had an idea. Maybe it fell out when I was on the bus. Or maybe at the restaurant where he took us to eat. She looked up. She knew the bus was gone forever. She didn't know what bus number it was. But the restaurant, yes. She remembered the street. She remembered the table they sat at inside. She could find it. She stood up, still crying, but with a new feeling of hope. "I have to go back. Maybe the card is still there. Maybe someone found it and kept it safe." She wrapped Julia on her back properly and started walking very fast down the road. She prayed quietly, "God, please let me find it. Please don't let this be the end of our help." Her feet were so tired, and her body felt weak, but her heart kept her going. She found a little yellow bus that was going to that area. She got on and sat quietly. She didn't talk much. Her eyes just stayed on the road. Every time the bus stopped, her heart beat faster. Finally, the bus stopped at the bus stop near the restaurant. She got off, looked around, and walked very fast. Would the card still be there? She didn't know. The driver nodded. "Yes, sir." He turned and walked out very fast. Hannah was still standing by the side of the road. She looked so tired. Little Julia was quiet in her arms. The sun was very hot now, and the baby's tiny head was sweating. Hannah looked down the road again. Her eyes were looking for any sign of Dominic's car, but she saw nothing. She looked up at the sky, then down at her baby. Her heart was starting to feel heavy. "It's already past 12 o'clock, she said quietly. If he was going to his office like yesterday, he would have already driven by. She looked up again, still hoping. Then she whispered, Maybe he didn't go to work today. Or maybe he took a different road." She sighed and looked at Julia. "Let's go, my baby. Let's go find a shady place." She was just about to turn around and leave when she heard a voice behind her. "Ma'am!" She stopped. She turned around quickly. A red car had stopped on the side of the road. The window rolled down. The man inside pointed at her. "Wait," he said. She looked closer. It was Dominic's driver. Her eyes got wide. Her heart started beating fast. She held Julia tighter as the driver opened his door and got out. Hannah took a small step closer. The second their eyes met, tears filled up in hers. She didn't cry out loud, but the tears were there. She started talking right away, her voice shaking. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I lost the card he gave me yesterday. I looked for it everywhere. I even went back to the restaurant, but it wasn't there." The driver looked at her. He saw her tired face, the sweat, the way she held her baby like she was treasure. She wasn't faking it. She wasn't putting on a show. She looked like a woman who had been crying all night long by herself. He didn't need to ask her any more questions. "Please come with me," he said gently. Hannah nodded. He opened the back door. She got in with Julia. The driver got in and started the car. As they drove away, Hannah looked out the window. She didn't know what was going to happen when they got to where they were going, but in her heart she whispered, "Thank you, God. Thank you." The red car drove into Dominic's yard and stopped by the garage. The driver got out first and gently opened the back door for Hannah. She stepped out slowly, holding Julia close. Her heart was beating very fast. She looked up at the huge house. It felt like a dream. Everything looked so beautiful. The driver smiled a little. "Come with me." She followed him. As they went into the house, she could hear laughing coming from the living room. Dominic was there, sitting with his brother, Salem, and a few other people. They were still talking and laughing. But as soon as Dominic looked up and saw Hannah, his smile went away. He stood up slowly. Hannah walked quickly toward him, still holding Julia. She got down on her knees to greet him, but Dominic ran to her and held her arms. "No, please," he said softly. "Don't do that." She stood up, shaking. Everyone turned to look. The room got very quiet. No one said anything, but you could tell by their eyes they had a lot of questions. Dominic didn't say why. He just turned to her and said, "Come with me." He took her away from the living room and down a long hallway. He opened the door to one of the extra bedrooms. It was clean and smelled fresh. "Please," he said gently, "take a good bath, you and your baby. You can rest in here." Hannah nodded her head slowly, still looking around like she wasn't sure if it was all real. Dominic left her in the room and went right to the kitchen. He called the cook. "There is a woman in the guest room," Dominic said in a serious voice. "Make sure she gets good food to eat. Don't take too long." "Yes, sir," the cook answered. Later that evening, after all the guests had gone, Dominic sat in the living room with Salem and Hannah. Hannah looked much cleaner now. She had put on some clean clothes that the maid gave her. Julia was sleeping soundly in her arms. Dominic looked at her. "You said you lost the card," he asked her gently. Hannah nodded. "Yes, sir. I looked all over for it. I even went back to the restaurant, but I couldn't find it." She stopped for a second, then said, "My phone. It broke before I had my baby. I haven't had a phone since then." Salem listened without talking. Dominic had already told him a little bit about the woman and what had happened the day before. Now, seeing her like this, Salem felt something deep in his heart. He looked at the baby, and then at Dominic. Dominic leaned forward. "I can't change what happened in the past," he said, "but I can help you with your future." Hannah looked at him, unable to speak. Dominic kept talking. "I want you to think. Is there any kind of business you would like to have? Anything you are good at, or something you would want to learn? Tell me, and I will help you start it." Hannah just blinked. Then he said, "You will stay here for now, until I can get you a home of your own." Tears rolled down her cheeks. This time she didn't try to stop them. She looked at Julia. Then she looked at Dominic. "Thank you," she whispered. Salem smiled a little and looked at his brother. Dominic just nodded. But in his heart, he knew he had just made a choice that would change this woman's life forever. A few days later, Dominic walked into the guest room and smiled at Hannah. "Get ready," he said. "We are going somewhere." "Somewhere?" she asked, surprised. He nodded. "Yes, you and Julia need something very important." Soon, they were in the car driving on the road. Dominic didn't talk much, but Hannah held Julia close and looked out the window. She still couldn't believe any of this was real. They got to a big store that sold clothes. Dominic took them inside. "Pick out whatever you like," he said. Hannah looked at him with her eyes wide open. "Sir? What do you mean?" "I mean it," he smiled. "You and Julia, you both, deserve to have nice things." At first, Hannah was very shy. She would touch some of the clothes and then put them back, but Dominic kept telling her it was okay. Soon, she picked out a few pretty dresses for herself and some cute baby clothes for Julia. When they were finished, the person at the cash register packed everything up nicely. Dominic paid for all of it. Hannah's eyes were so full of happiness. "Thank you, sir," she said. "Thank you so much." But Dominic wasn't finished. Next, they went to a store that sold phones. He asked the man working there to show him a new phone, one that was strong and simple to use. Then he took her to the phone company's store. There, he helped her get her old phone number back. Hannah held the phone like it was made of gold. "God bless you, sir," she said with tears in her eyes. "I don't even know what to say." Dominic just smiled. "You don't need to say anything." They went back to the big house. When they walked inside, Salem was already sitting in the living room waiting for them. He stood up when they came in. "Dominic," he said, "there is a place I want you to come with me. And I would also like for Hannah to come with us." Dominic looked at Hannah. She nodded her head quietly. They all left the house together and got into the car. No one talked much while they were driving. Hannah kept thinking about what this could be. She looked at Julia, who was asleep in her arms, and said a little prayer in her heart. After a while, the car stopped in front of a tall building with apartments. Salem told the driver to park the car. Then they all got out. Dominic looked at Salem. "Where are we?" "Just come with me," Salem said. They walked into the yard. When they got to the door of one of the apartments, Salem stopped. He turned and looked at Hannah. "When I heard your story," he started to say slowly, "it made me think of our mother." Hannah listened, not sure what he was going to say next. Salem's voice got softer. "She was a single mom," he said. "She raised Dominic and me all by herself. I remember how she would cry at night. I would see her when I woke up. But I couldn't do anything to help. We were too young to help her." Hannah's eyes were already getting watery. Her hands were shaking as she held Julia even tighter. Salem went on. "She passed away before we had any money, before we could give her the love she really deserved. That hurt has never gone away from me." Then Salem reached into his pocket. He took out a small key. "This apartment," he said, "is for you." Hannah's legs felt weak. She fell to the ground and started to cry very loud. "Oh God," she cried. "What did I do to get this kind of kindness?" Dominic was quiet. He looked at Salem, shocked. He had wanted to help Hannah, but now his brother had done something even bigger. Dominic walked over to him and gave him a tight hug. "I am so proud of the man you have become," he said in a heavy voice. "I just wish Mom was here to see this." Salem held his brother's hand and smiled. Then he turned to Hannah again. "I have also made plans to open a supermarket for you," he said. "Don't worry, we will hire a good manager. But you will be the boss, and after a while you will learn how to run it all by yourself." Hannah cried even more. She didn't know what to say. But in her heart, she knew that her life would never be the same again. A few weeks went by quietly. Hannah's life had changed in ways she had never dreamed of. She now had a clean house to live in, food to eat, and a big supermarket with her name on it. The shelves were all full of things. Customers came to shop every day. She wasn't begging on the street anymore with baby Julia on her back. One warm afternoon, she was in the office inside her supermarket. She was writing down how much money they made and checking her papers. Julia was sleeping in a little bed, right next to her. Suddenly, her phone started to ring. It was a number she didn't know. She looked at the screen for a second, not sure if she should answer. Something inside her told her to pick up the phone. She pressed the green button and put the phone to her ear. The voice on the other side was a woman's voice. It was calm, but you could hear a lot of sadness in it. Hello? Is this Hannah? Yes, this is Hannah, she answered slowly. There was a short silence. I am calling from a country that is close by, the voice said. My name is Evelyn. I am Jacob's cousin. When she heard the name Jacob, Hannah froze. Her eyes filled with tears right away. She hadn't heard that name in such a long time. I have been trying to call this number for over a year, the woman said, but it was always turned off. I just got through to you today. Hannah didn't say anything. She held her breath and just listened. My cousin Jacob. He came into the country on the same day he left you, the woman said softly. There was an accident. A really bad one. He never made it home. Hannah held her chest. Her heart felt so heavy. He was in a coma for 4 months, the woman continued. He never woke up. He passed away peacefully. There was a long silence on the phone. I saw the messages that you sent him, Evelyn said. I saw how much love was in your words. I knew that he was serious about you. Hannah wiped her face. She didn't know what to say. From the messages, I think that there is a child, the woman said quietly. Is there? Yes, Hannah whispered. Her name is Julia. She is his daughter. Her voice broke when she said it, but she didn't hide it this time. The woman on the phone let out a long sigh. Jacob's mother is still alive, she said. She is very old now. She cries every single day. She thinks that Jacob left this world without leaving anything behind. But now, there is hope. Hannah took a deep breath and spoke with a calm and strong voice. Don't worry, she said. I will make a plan to bring Julia to see her. She has to meet her grandmother. I will do whatever I can to make it happen. The woman on the other side of the phone started to cry softly. Thank you, she said. After the phone call was over, Hannah sat by herself in the small office. Tears were rolling down her cheeks. Not tears because she was sad, but tears because she felt at peace. For such a long time she had lived with questions. She had lived with not knowing anything. But now she knew the truth. Jacob didn't just leave her. He never came back because he couldn't. He was already fighting for his own life. Hannah finally had her answers, and now her daughter, Julia, would grow up knowing who her family was. A few days later, Dominic and Salem came to visit the supermarket. They saw Hannah smiling again. This time it was a smile that came from deep inside her heart. Dominic put his hand on her shoulder. You are strong, he said, and she was. Because even though life had tried to knock her down, she got back up again. Not with hate, not with anger, but with hope. And with that, a new part of her life started for Hannah and her daughter Julia. Being truly rich isn't about having money. It's about how we are with people who can't give us anything back. We get better by helping others get better. And even when life doesn't seem fair, don't stop trying. Sometimes the help you're looking for is watching you from somewhere, ready to come when you don't expect it. Also, don't ever judge people by the hard times they are in. Everyone has a story, and with just one kind thing, you can be the reason someone's life changes for the better. Now tell me, what did you learn from Hannah's story? Was there a part that made you cry or smile? Let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. A brand new story is coming out in just a few days. It's very deep, very emotional, and has a lot of surprises. So please follow my channel and turn on the little bell so you won't miss it. If this story made you feel something, don't forget to like the video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. See you in the next one.